All right, guys. So Bill Maher went on Chris Cuomo's show to discuss some things that are currently going on in our country, particularly things that Bill Maher has been saying himself regarding his criticisms of the Democrat Party. Now, I want to play these clips and talk about the things that Bill Maher is talking about here because I love it when people on the left, right, the few sane people on the left in this country, call out the radicals on the left, and I especially love it when it's done on mainstream liberal media because they're basically radicals on the left as well. Now, I don't want to spend too much time telling you guys what it's about because this clip is going to be long. But first, they're going to talk about the coverage of Trump versus what people on the other side of the aisle do. And then they're going to go into talking about the concept of wokeness and critical race theory in schools. So without further ado, I want to play this clip that's going to be pretty long, but I think it's a fascinating conversation. Take a look.
To a lot of people, that's how people talk. And he never backs down, even when he's completely wrong and done something horrible. But in a world where everyone is always apologizing for everything, that comes off as refreshing. And
they also don't believe that he's really guilty of anything, that they don't think about the rest of the political class anyway.
No, maybe. I think, oh, please. I think they are not benighted to the idea that he has done things that nobody ever has done. I mean, porn stars, messing with porn stars while your wife is pregnant. No, I don't think Bob Dole did that. And I don't think they think anyone else did that either. I don't think they think anyone else made fun of handicapped people or cheated students at his fake university or robbed charities. I mean, he is everything wrong that you could stuff inside of one man.
But they believe that political insiders in the media made a lot of that stuff up. And they don't watch us or read us, so they don't know what the proof is behind it. And his people and his outlets either don't talk about it or say, it's not really true. You know, the same stuff's true about Biden or Clinton or Harris or fill in the blank.
Some of it, yes. I mean, something like Hunter Biden. I mean, if Don Jr. had done what Hunter Biden had done, it would be every night, all night on MSNBC. But the fact that it's Hunter Biden and Joe's on the blue team, see, that's the problem with America. Everything is so binary. Everything that the red team doesn't like goes in the blue bin and vice versa. So, you know, every Democratic politician has to wear on his sleeve every silly, stupid, woke thing that the fringe left does. And the red team has to wear kids in cages and, you know, lock her up and all that kind of stuff. But to that...
A quick question. Woke. The response from the people that you put it on will say, no. Woke is aware and inclusive, and there is no cancel culture. It's just accountability. These are not bad things. They are good things. Disagree.
Well, woke, yes. I mean, I don't remember the day the term was born, although I hear AOC says only old people use it now. Well, you gave it to us like 5 years ago. So sorry we didn't get the memo right away. You know, that's such a high school thing. We're not using that anymore. We all wear pink on Wednesdays. Okay, whatever term you want. I don't care. Again, I just got used to this one. And yes, in its best sense, if we're talking about being aware of things that we always should have been aware of more, reckonings that we've had with sexual malfeasance, with racial injustice, that's all a good thing. But there's a reason why the term woke has come to signify going too far and doing things that don't make sense. I keep saying this to the Democratic Party. The reason why you are so toxic is because you have become the party of no common sense. And people see this on their news feeds. I mean, you were saying to me in the break, people mostly go on with their lives. They do, but they see things on their phone or on their Facebook page. People pass things around. And it's a constant drip, drip, drip of, oh, these people are nuts.
So it's that you have families, and we saw this resonate in Virginia. And I have people on all the time who reject this premise, but we just saw it play out, so it must be real to a lot of people, which is you want to make white kids feel badly about what happened before them and that their lives should be a function of making up for it. And I don't want that put on my kid.
Yes, kids are taught and sometimes separated into groups, oppressor and oppressed. Again, does a kid even know what those words mean? Would they gravitate toward that if you hadn't told them? I mean, you're taking something that was getting better, race relations in America, and I think everyone recognizes, everyone right-thinking in my view, that still a lot of work needs to be done. Remedial efforts need to be taken still. Racism is part of America. But I did a thing one night about progressivophobia, which is a term Steven Pinker coined, which means somehow liberals got afraid to acknowledge progress. You know, it's two thoughts in your head at the same time. You can acknowledge that we have made great progress on all the social issues. And yet there is still more work to be done. We're not saying mission accomplished. It's just saying, let's live in the year we're living in. You can't come up with good solutions unless you're realistic about what the problem is. I mean, it was only like 10 or 20 years ago that no state in America would vote for gay marriage. I mean, it was on the ballot like 35 times. Now it's the law of the land, and no one is against it. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up in New Jersey, which is not a southern state. And it was a completely white town. Now, a vast majority of Americans want to live in a racially diverse neighborhood. That is a sea change just in my lifetime. Again, not mission accomplished, but can we just acknowledge how far we've come and where we are right now?
All right, guys, so I want to say this real quick about Bill Maher, right? And how recently he's been kind of going on this crusade against the Democrat Party in regards to social issues. And that has kind of gained Bill Maher some clout on the right. Now, some people on the right have responded to this and say, well, you know, Bill Maher is not really on our team, right? He's not our friend. But I just want people to understand it shouldn't be about whether or not somebody's on your team, right? What it really should be about is, do you agree with this person on a specific point, regardless of where they reside on the political spectrum? And I just want to say, for a lot of this interview, I do actually agree with Bill Maher, right? Even though I might not necessarily agree with him on a lot of other issues and a lot of other things, I think it's perfectly fine to agree with people on very specific points, even if they don't align with you politically. Now, when it comes to discussing the coverage that the media gives to Trump, right, and the allegations against him and the bad things he do versus the coverage that the media gives to the left and the Democrat Party in regards to the allegations against them and the bad things they do, I think Bill Maher is on point to a certain extent, right? I don't necessarily agree with him when he talks about how he thinks that Trump is like the embodiment of everything that's wrong with, a person or whatever, right? I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do agree with his response to Chris Cuomo when he said that, if Don Jr. had done what Hunter Biden did, MSNBC will be covering it all day, right? And he's absolutely right? The MSNBC coverage of that would be absolutely insane. And I think what people like Chris Cuomo don't realize is that the fact that the mainstream liberal media refuses to cover both sides equally is why they don't have credibility anymore, right? Because Chris Cuomo is sitting here talking about, well, the right doesn't believe the things that we say about Trump, right? The right thinks it's all made up. And I'm like, well, the reason why is because you guys literally refuse to cover what's on the other side. And when you do that, right, when you have obviously biased coverage, people don't trust you. It's not that people are not aware, right? Everybody's aware of the allegations against Trump. Everybody's aware, right? And I think, there's a good amount of people who might not necessarily like those allegations, who might not necessarily agree with those things. However, at the end of the day, again, because the mainstream liberal media is so biased, I think a lot of people are like, there must be some establishment agenda against Trump. So therefore, even though I don't like the fact that he does certain things or the allegations against him, I'm still going to support him because the establishment hates him, right? So the media, in a certain sense, is their own worst enemy. On to the conversation about wokeness, right? Which, is, I think, a fascinating conversation as well, because Bill Maher is raging against wokeness, right? And the concept of wokeness. And the way I define wokeness, guys, is simply just radical social / racial change. That's why I define as wokeness. Okay, and wokeness, in my opinion, is the Achilles heel of the Democrat Party. It is turning off a lot of people with common sense in this country because the Democrats are in bed with people who want to push policies that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, right? And certain agendas that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. For example, the whole gender thing. Having boys and girls use the same bathroom, right? This is not just adults. We're talking about this is happening in schools where they're making gender neutral restrooms where, again, little boys and little girls can use the bathroom together, right? And they want parents to be comfortable with that. And if you're uncomfortable with that, then you're a transphobe. Again, gonna turn a lot of people off, right? He also talked about CRT, right? And this racial indoctrination, teaching kids that one group of people is superior to another group of people simply based off their race, separating kids based off their race, right? Doing things like that, in which if parents speak out against it, then you're racist for speaking out against it. That type of stuff, guys, is what we define as wokeness, aka radical social / racial change that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, because whether or not the left wants to realize it or not, a lot of people in this country are still pretty socially conservative. Or put it this way, they're not radicals in regards to where they're at socially, right? A lot of people have common sense, and common sense tell people, you know, boys and girls shouldn't be using the same bathroom together, right? Boys and girls shouldn't be competing in certain sports together, right? Particularly sports that are contact sports and require a certain amount of athleticism to compete, right? They shouldn't be competing together. But the left is telling you different. And if you say any different, then again, you're a transphobe, you're a bigot, right? Now, the last point I want to make here, guys, is about the idea that America hasn't made social progress, right? That we're still living in the 1940s and 1950s, which is, again, what Bill Maher was talking about. We are, in fact, not living in the 1940s and 1950s anymore. And the left refuses to acknowledge the fact that we have made progress on social issues, right? And the reason why they refuse to acknowledge that is because if they actually had to acknowledge that, then there would be no reason to push their radical social agenda. They have to say that we haven't made enough progress in order to keep pushing this stuff. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that we have made progress, right? I think there's a lot of people in this country that don't mind their kids going to school with kids that look different than them or from different cultures than them. They don't mind working with people that look different from them or have a different culture from them. They don't mind interacting with people from different backgrounds. They really don't. And I think a lot of people actually prefer it, right? Like Bill Maher was talking about in terms of people living in racially diverse neighborhoods, wanting to live with people that don't necessarily look like them or be around people that don't necessarily look like them. Right? And when it comes to, again, the issue of gay marriage, right? There's a lot of people in this country is like, you know what? I'm okay with the government sanctioning a civil union for the sake of two people coming together to get tax benefits, right? Regardless of, their sexuality. Okay? I think a lot of people are comfortable with that. Now, what a lot of people are uncomfortable with is forcing churches to marry same-sex couples, right? I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, right? But see, there's people on the left that want to force churches to marry same-sex couples. That is an example of wokeness going too far, right? That's an example of wokeness going too far because it basically goes against people's religious beliefs, right? And I think in churches should have a right to basically run their church any way they want based off their scriptures. I mean, again, as long as it's, you're not killing anybody, you're not harming anybody, but they shouldn't be forced to marry people. So I guess what I'm saying is that back in the day, people might not have been comfortable with the government sanctioning civil unions, right? Or marriage, right? But a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm not going to get in the way of the government doing that. Okay? But we just don't want it in churches, right? But again, there's some people on the left that doesn't think that that's good enough, right? In my opinion, this is the Achilles heel of the Democrat Party, right? Them getting on board with the radical left agenda. And I think that that's what contributed to them losing in Virginia, right? We all know that there is racial indoctrination being implemented in schools. However, the Democrats, because again, they're elitist and because they're in bed with the woke radical left, they come out here and tell parents that it doesn't exist, right? What they say they're experiencing, what they say their kids are experiencing in school is false, right? And if you say that, you might be a racist, right? You might be a white supremacist. Again, this is language coming from the woke left. And lo and behold, when it came time to vote, a lot of, suburban moms, right, say, you know what, I don't necessarily know if I want to get on board with this. I'm not necessarily sure if I like this woke radical agenda, right? So I think what Bill Maher saying here is spot on. And if the left was smart, they would listen to the things he's saying because when it comes to the social issues, right, the dude has been spot on a lot of stuff, right? He realizes that party, his side of the aisle, is going way too far left on this stuff, and it's making a whole lot of people uncomfortable because it's not grounded in common sense, right? It goes against what people think our society should be like and what we should normalize, right? They're trying to normalize a whole lot of stuff that's just simply not normal. And again, it makes people uncomfortable. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.